Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to the poem of the day today for Thursday, August 7th, 2025. Yesterday, the poem that I read, Vowels or Voyelles by Arthur Rimbaud, was so strange to me that I often think about these poems throughout the rest of the day and just reflect on an emotion that it stirred in me or a thought that it provoked. That was one that it kept coming back to me as being particularly puzzling and strange in a rather delightful way. And so, what I wanted to do today was return to the French symbolist poets and just kind of dip my toe back in there again and get another example of the school of poetry that again was not really looking for some deeper symbolic or political purpose in their poems, but was really foregrounding emotion and image and the direct presentation or description of senses and imagery, often in ways that associated senses and imagery atypically or in a kind of synesthetic manner, as we saw yesterday with the vowels being associated with specific colors. So the poem that we're going to read today is called Langueur by Paul Verlaine, and it was published in 1883. So he was um, a contemporary of Rimbaud from yesterday. And I'm going to tell you before I read it that it is a Petrarchan sonnet, which we've talked about quite a bit in this series. And I often start by discussing the form of the poem as a way of going into it. I wanted to tell you that first so that I resist the temptation to go back to that as a talking point afterward. And I want to focus instead today more on a reader response because I think that might be a more appropriate way of approaching the French symbolists. So this is Langueur by Paul Verlaine from 1883. I am the empire and the last of its decline. It sees the tall, fair-haired barbarians pass, the while composing indolent acrostics in a style of gold, with languid sunshine dancing in each line. The solitary soul is heartsick with a vile ennui. Down yon, they say war's torches bloody shine. Alas, to be so faint of will, one must resign the chance of brave adventure in the splendid file. Of death, perchance. Alas, so lagging in desire. Ah, all is drunk. Bathless, hast thou done laughing, pray? Ah, all is drunk, all eaten, nothing more to say. Alone, a vapid verse one tosses in the fire. Alone, a somewhat thievish slave neglecting one. Alone, a vague disgust of all beneath the sun. To me, this is a very emotional poem, not just in the sense of the intensity of the emotions, but I think in a way it's expressed in a way that's so relatable in terms of melancholy. I think the speaker's describing being on the sidelines or the periphery of a culture in decline and a culture that was decadent, um, vast, dominating, empire like, and is seeing not just a foreign invasion, as the barbarians pass through, but all of the things that made life meaningful and beautiful, the hedonistic pleasures, and I say that in a neutral, non-judgmental way, but those small little indulgences that we kind of give ourselves throughout the day, as well as the deeper joys that life brings. He's seeing all of those things be passed over, unappreciated, not accessed by the barbarians, but also those who are bearing war's torches. And within this poem, there's, I believe, two alasses, which is a interjection to sort of bemoan something or to mourn something. In the first one, he talks about being so faint of will that one must resign the brave chance of adventure in the splendid file. And what I take that to mean is he's seeing the people who are war hungry, who are going to war, probably younger people, probably younger men, and is saying, imagine being so dispirited or so lacking in, um, the deep reaches of the soul that you are willing to give up on the possibility of these deep and wonderful treasures that life is going to give, these unforeseen adventures that possibly lay ahead of you, just to stand and file, right? To give yourself up as an individual and to stand and file like everyone else, uniform, seeking one purpose that's destruction, not enjoyment. Um, of death perchance, he says, alas, so lagging in desire. So the thing that he is diagnosing within this generation that has led to the fall of the empire is that they don't want deeply for things, for the greater things of life, for the deeper nourishments of the soul. And so we, after that, get two lines that are united by anaphora, beginning with the same phrase in the two lines, ah, all is drunk, ah, all is drunk. And I had to look this up. There's an allusion here to the ancient Romans where it says, Bathyllus has done laughing, pray. And Bathyllus was a dancer, some said an erotic dancer, who danced for the Romans and often sort of recited or enacted these kind of tragicomic, like pantomimes, for lack of a better term, and was very effective. It said that it was said he could stir people into a sexual frenzy. Um, and the speaker here is kind of calling out to Bathyllus and is asking, like, don't you have anything left? Are you done? Is there nothing still that can capture the spirit of these people? In poetry, that's called an apostrophe when you are addressing like an inanimate object or a spirit, an ethereal, something ethereal, someone who's not there. Oh my soul, oh my heart. After that, he's saying all is drunk, all is eaten. There's no food, there's no wine left to cheer these people up. And then in the last three lines, we get another series of anaphora, beginning with alone, comma, alone, comma. In the last six lines of the poem, there is a lot more caesura. The lines are broken, sometimes twice, right? By of death perchance, so it's broken there by a comma, but then also by an exclamation point. There's 5 exclamation points within the last 6 lines and one question. So the emotion intensifies, but it's intensified as a kind of calling out in the first of the last 6 lines, the first 3 of the last 6 lines, and then those final 3 that all begin with alone. Each line contains its own single image that gives way to an emotion. A vapid verse one tosses into the fire, right? So he's not even able to produce meaningful poetry anymore, and then it all just quickly gets burnt up. A somewhat thievish slave neglecting one, a vague disgust of all beneath the sun. So I think in the thievish slave, he's sort of talking about no one noticing you, right? And then that's leading to the langueur, the languidness that is afflicting the speaker in this poem, that a disgust of everything beneath the sun, not just the people, but that the barbarians or this younger war-bent generation has also brought a disenchantment with the pleasures of the world, and then a kind of casting off of it that's happening. And I just thought that the melancholy and the ennui that was depicted in this poem, that was expressed in this poem, was particularly vivid, effective. It's epic in a sense, even though it's rather small, being contained within just 4 lines. So it's intimate, but it expresses feelings that explode beyond the bounds of the form and of the poem itself. And I found it very impactful. I hope you did as well. And may peace be with everyone today.